For decades, the Fantastic Four have been Marvel's first family. They're pioneers, explorers, scientists, and adventurers. They laid the very groundwork for what we now know as the Marvel Universe. Yet, for just as long, they've been Hollywood's biggest puzzle. Time and again, studios have tried to translate the unique magic of Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben to the big screen, and time and again, they've stumbled. From unseen failures to outright disasters, the Fantastic Four's cinematic journey has been, well, anything but fantastic. But now, a new chapter begins. The Fantastic Four: First Steps has just hit theaters, under the watchful eye of Marvel Studios. After years of speculation, reboots, and rights issues, Marvel's first family is finally home. The question on everyone's mind isn't just, is this new movie good? But something far more significant. Can this be the film that finally breaks the curse? Can it truly save the Fantastic Four franchise? Has Marvel Studios finally figured out the Fantastic Four, or are they destined to remain Hollywood's greatest unsolved mystery? Let's find out. Now, before we look to the future, we have to confront the past. Because to understand the monumental task facing the Fantastic Four: First Steps, you need to understand just how spectacularly and repeatedly Hollywood has failed Marvel's first family. It's a cinematic saga less about superheroes and more about studio interference, creative misfires, and a seemingly cursed property. Our journey begins in 1994, with a film so infamous, most people have never actually seen it, The Fantastic Four 1994. This wasn't a grand cinematic ambition. It was a desperate attempt to cling to film rights. Produced by Bernd Eichinger of Constantine Film, who had acquired the rights years prior, this low-budget flick, directed by Roger Corman, was reportedly made for just a fraction over $1 million. It was campy, it was cheap, and by all accounts, it was laughably bad. But here's the kicker: it was never officially released. Legend has it, Marvel executive Avi Arad himself bought all the prints for a reported $2 million, then had them destroyed, fearing the film's abysmal quality would permanently tarnish the Fantastic Four brand. So, the first big-screen attempt at the Fantastic Four set a precedent. The rights were more valuable than the actual movie. Fast forward to 2005, and 20th Century Fox, having licensed the rights from Constantine, took their first serious swing with Fantastic Four 2005. Directed by Tim Story, this film aimed for a lighter, more family-friendly tone, starring Ioan Gruffudd as Reed, Jessica Alba as Sue, Chris Evans as Johnny, and Michael Chiklis as Ben. On paper, it was a box office success, pulling in $333.5 million worldwide against a $100 million budget. However, critically, it was a different story. It landed a dismal 27% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 40 out of 100 on Metacritic. Critics largely found it simplistic, cheesy, and generic. While Chris Evans was widely praised for his charismatic portrayal of Johnny Storm, and Michael Chiklis embodied the tragic heft of Ben Grimm, the film struggled to capture the depth, the scientific wonder, or the true family dynamic that defined the comics. Fox tried again 2 years later with Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer 2007, bringing back the same cast and director. This sequel introduced two iconic characters, Silver Surfer and Galactus, which should have been a slam dunk. But once again, the execution fell short. It grossed a respectable $301.9 million worldwide against a $130 million budget, but less than its predecessor, signaling diminishing returns. Critically, it fared only slightly better, hitting 37% on Rotten Tomatoes and 45 out of 100 on Metacritic. The film received mixed reviews, often criticized for its rushed plot, superficial portrayal of Galactus as a giant cloud, much to fans' dismay, and a failure to capitalize on the potential of the Silver Surfer. The planned third film and a Silver Surfer spin-off were promptly canceled. Fox had managed two commercially viable, but critically underwhelming, blockbusters. Then came the infamous Fantastic Four 2015. This was Fox's desperate attempt at a darker, grittier, more realistic reboot, directed by Josh Trank. With a promising cast including Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Michael B. Jordan, and Jamie Bell, there was a glimmer of hope. That hope was brutally extinguished. This film was a catastrophic flop, earning only $168 million worldwide against a $120 million budget, an estimated loss of $80 to $100 million for the studio. The critical reception was even more brutal, a shocking 9% on Rotten Tomatoes and a miserable 27 out of 100 on Metacritic. It was universally panned for its incredibly dark and joyless tone, a drastically altered origin story, bizarre pacing, and a complete misunderstanding of the source material. The production was plagued with public controversy, most notably director Josh Trank openly blaming the studio for extensive interference and reshoots. It was a brand killer, cementing the Fantastic Four's reputation as Hollywood's most cursed comic book property. So, for 3 decades, the Fantastic Four franchise has been a graveyard of unfulfilled potential. From the unreleased curiosity of '94, to the forgettable mediocrity of the mid-2000s, to the outright disaster of 2015, these films consistently failed to capture the essence of what makes Marvel's first family so beloved. This is the heavy legacy that the Fantastic Four, First Steps, now carries on its shoulders. So the obvious question arises, why do we keep coming back to the Fantastic Four? Why does this team hold such a mythical status among comic book fans? To answer that, we have to go back to 1961, to the very genesis of the modern Marvel Universe. It all started with writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby. In an era dominated by more traditional, often one-dimensional superheroes, Lee and Kirby did something revolutionary with the Fantastic Four. They created not just a superhero team, but a family. A bickering, loving, flawed, and incredibly human family that just happened to gain superpowers after a fateful trip into cosmic radiation. This was unprecedented. Unlike many heroes of the time, the Fantastic Four had no secret identities. They were public figures, celebrities even, grappling with the everyday challenges of their extraordinary abilities. Their powers weren't just tools for fighting bad guys. They were integral to their personalities and relationships. Lee and Kirby infused their stories with a sense of boundless exploration and scientific discovery. They weren't just fighting villains. They were charting unknown dimensions, encountering alien civilizations, and pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. This blend of high-concept science fiction, grand adventure, and deeply personal character drama made the Fantastic Four a cornerstone of the burgeoning Marvel Universe. They introduced iconic concepts and characters that would shape decades of comic book storytelling, from the subterranean Mole Man to the regal Namor, from the shape-shifting Super-Skrull to the cosmic, existential threat of Galactus and his herald, the Silver Surfer. The Fantastic Four's stories weren't just about punching villains. They explored themes of identity, sacrifice, the ethics of science, and the challenges of maintaining a normal life while saving the universe. Reed and Sue even got married and had children, like their incredibly powerful son Franklin, adding layers of domestic drama and responsibility that other superhero narratives simply weren't touching. This deep well of character, concept, and cosmic adventure is why the Fantastic Four are so beloved, and why every failed adaptation feels like a punch to the gut for fans. They represent the heart of Marvel's innovation, a beacon of what superhero stories could be beyond simple good versus evil tales. And this profound comic book legacy is precisely why the film rights to the Fantastic Four have been such a hot potato for decades. All of that brings us to today. After years of rights limbo, studio acquisitions, and endless fan speculation, the Fantastic Four have finally, truly, come home to Marvel Studios. And with the release of the Fantastic Four, First Steps, 2025, the question isn't just about avoiding past mistakes, but about forging a bold new path. This isn't your typical Marvel origin story. Director Matt Shakman, fresh off the acclaimed WandaVision, promised something different, and he delivered. Gone are the cosmic ray origin accidents, at least for us. We're dropped into Earth 828, a stunning 1960s techno-futurist utopia where the Fantastic Four already exist. They've had their powers for 4 years, operating as the celebrated Future Foundation, using Reed's inventions and their abilities for the betterment of the world. Reed and Sue are married, and in a groundbreaking twist for a superhero blockbuster, Sue is visibly pregnant. This immediately establishes the core family dynamic we've craved, rather than building up to it. The casting itself ignited a firestorm of excitement. Pedro Pascal as the brilliant Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as the strong, compassionate Sue Storm, Eben Mosbackrack as the tragic, gravelly-voiced Ben Grimm, and Joseph Quinn as the charismatic, fiery Johnny Storm. On paper, it's a dream team, sparking immense anticipation, particularly for Pascal and Kirby's nuanced portrayals. The plot of First Steps leans heavily into the cosmic and exploratory side of the comics. The film kicks off with the unexpected arrival of the Silver Surfer, but not the Norrin Rad we know. This is Shalabal, a female version of the Herald, played by Julia Garner. Her arrival signals the impending doom brought by Galactus, voiced by Ralph Ineson, and the team embarks on a journey to confront him. So, how has this bold new vision been received? Well, it's a mixed bag so far. Initial reactions from special 30-minute fan screenings were overwhelmingly positive, with many hailing it as one of Marvel's best, praising its visuals, intimate family dynamic, and chemistry. However, subsequent test screenings reportedly yielded more lukewarm responses, and the initial wave of full reviews echoes this division. Some critics praised the unique aesthetic, the focus on character, and the performances, highlighting a refreshing tone for the MCU. Others have criticized the pacing, finding it rushed, or feeling that certain character developments, particularly for Johnny, felt underdeveloped. Joseph Quinn's portrayal has been a point of debate among fans. And at the box office? As of late July 2025, First Steps has taken in roughly $216.7 million worldwide against an estimated $200 million budget. This suggests it's currently underperforming relative to its significant cost, putting it squarely in the needs to pick up steam category rather than an immediate runaway success like some MCU giants. This early performance complicates the narrative of a guaranteed triumph. But even with divided reviews and an uncertain box office, First Steps is undeniably different. It immediately establishes its unique place within the MCU, skipping the origin story, embracing the established family, and leaning into the weird, wonderful, cosmic side of the Fantastic Four. It takes a risk with its retro-futuristic setting and a Galactus and Surfer story straight out of the comics. The biggest question remains: are these fresh choices enough to rewrite decades of cinematic failure? Well, some challenges still remain. The early box office performance is a concern. While $216.7 million worldwide against a $200 million budget isn't an outright disaster, it's not the explosive opening Marvel might have hoped for, especially for a franchise starter of this magnitude. This raises questions about potential Marvel fatigue, or if the Fantastic Four brand itself still carries a stigma from past failures, making it harder to draw in casual audiences without the immediate draw of a familiar, established MCU character. The divided critical reception, while significantly better than the outright pans of 2005 and 2015, also means it hasn't landed as a universally acclaimed triumph like Black Panther or Guardians of the Galaxy. This could impact word-of-mouth and long-term theatrical legs. Fan expectations were astronomically high, built on decades of longing, and it's impossible to please everyone. So can the Fantastic Four, First Steps, truly save the franchise? Yes, it can, and it largely has. While it might not be a flawless masterpiece or an immediate box office juggernaut, the Fantastic Four, First Steps represents a monumental leap forward. It course corrects by understanding the fundamental appeal of the Fantastic Four: family, exploration, and the wonder of science. It discards the failed origin story trope and leans into an established, lived-in world. It's aesthetically bold, creatively confident, and critically, it's miles ahead of any previous attempt. It lays a strong, unique foundation for Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben within the MCU, proving that they are adaptable and compelling when handled with care and vision. It has pulled the franchise out of the cinematic graveyard, dusted it off, and given it not just a pulse, but a clear, exciting direction for the future. The First Steps might not be perfect, but they are going in the right direction.